Hey everyone, welcome to session 1.1b entitled Teacher Problems and Concerns, the Basis Behind Educational Psychology. In this session, we're going to explore the current challenges teachers have and concerns, and how educational psychology, or the research that we're going to talk about and build in this class, is going to help you spearhead those problems. So in our previous session, which was 1.1, we looked at educational psychology and how teachers solve their own problems and make decisions of their classroom based on three particular areas: common sense, experience, and research. Now again, research is something we're going to dive into this entire semester, so I hope you're excited. But from one particular study, I just want to go ahead and talk about this segment. A current study basically highlighted 5 different categories teachers experience problems or concerns. And they also looked, out of all of those problems, what were the most bothersome? What was the top tier of those concerns? So I want to address those with you and kind of talk through them with you as well, for you to get an understanding of what we're going to dive into with educational research and for the reasons why. So one of the first categories that teachers basically express problems and concerns in school is something called affiliation. And now affiliation is a term describing the need to establish and maintain good relationships with others in the school. Now this means establishing those relationships with the administration, the principal, the janitor, the different types of teachers, whether you have a fine arts teacher in your school, physical education, classroom teacher, ISS, different types of teachers in the school. And what we found is that teachers did not have solid working relationships with these types of people. And it was something that really concerned them, that they did not necessarily always enjoy who they were working with or how they could better enhance that relationship so they could enjoy working with certain types of people. Because if you think about it, in a school environment, you don't just work with your particular grade level of teachers. You work with different subject area teachers, you work with administration, you work with special ed teachers. There's so many different people that are part of this equation that your isolation is really limited in a school. So you have to be able to work and you have to be able to connect with different types of people at school. The second category that teachers basically responded of problems was control in the classroom, or classroom management. Of course, we think of classroom management, kids getting out of control and getting really rowdy, and that certainly does have problems, especially in early childhood, certainly, but depending on the type of middle school or high school, or even the type of environment. So based on between if you're in a gymnasium, if you're at recess, if you're in a classroom where everyone's sitting in a desk, if they're working as a group, or again in isolation. But control is a major issue for teachers, and proper classroom management is such a big concern. The earlier you implement it, the earlier you begin to actually discipline by it and stand by it, the better off you're going to be. When you don't state what your expectations are, or the rules or the ways of the classroom, that's where students start to test limits, test boundaries, and you run into control issues. A third issue that teachers experienced challenges or concerns was with parental relationships and home life amongst their students. So they felt the ability to communicate with parents to be really strong, and they needed that support at home between folders going home, reading logs, homework, notes, various different things, so that parents are active participants in their children's education, and that it's not just something that occurs between the hours of 8 and 3. But they found that there were sometimes strained relationships with parents. Perhaps they were disinterested in learning about their children's education. They did not attend parent-teacher conferences, return phone calls. Or perhaps the teacher knew about the home life of the child and recognized that there was nothing no assistance at home or strong, consistent individual there as well. And that children just had no access to computers or other technologies or other help, even just general help for homework at home was a big struggle. And teachers found this to be one of the major issues that really bothered them throughout their tenure. The fourth category of responses for teachers is student success. And I mean, this is rightly so, that as teachers, we want our students to be successful, both academically as well as socially, because we can't forget that even though we are teaching them math and reading and science, we're also teaching them how to live in a society and be in a social environment and work with others in teamwork activities and listening and show respect for one another's and work on time management and work on task skills. I mean, there's so many different entities that encompass student success. It's not just the academics, but certainly we want to see our students do well. We want to see them progress through the grade level and then move on to the next as well. So student success was a problem or a concern for teachers that sometimes they didn't always know how to properly correct and how to address that, with students having several issues or comprehension problems, perhaps even student support relating to special ed and those types of things. The last and final issue is time. So teachers have basically expressed that their use of time between a school day, of whether your day starts at 7 a.m. and finishes at 4, there just was not enough time in the school day to get it all done. Teachers wear numerous hats throughout the school day. They are on bus duty, sometimes they're on lunch duty, sometimes they have to do individual, of course, reading time to check reading levels of children. They have to call parents at home. They have to be aware, be prepared for conferences with special ed teachers, collaborative amongst all grade levels. There's just so much time and things that have to be done in a school day that there was just not enough time to fulfill the roles of the teacher. So I think that's a common theme amongst most professions, but time was certainly one that was echoed by teachers. So let's look at some findings. What are the most frequent problems for teachers? What did they experience that was that showed up consistently? And the number one reason was actually control, was classroom management. And this is where we find that teachers, again, are just not implementing it as well as they should. The expectations need to be clearly explained to the class, how to act, what to act, or how to act and how not to act. And if you act in a certain form or fashion, here are the disciplinary measures, and also following through with those disciplinary measures. Most teachers just kind of brush it off or let it go, but students notice these things and they continue to persist and to persist and to persist until you acknowledge those. So the most frequent problem for teacher was classroom control or classroom management. Another finding of what was the most bothersome for teachers, things that kind of kept them up at night, tossing and turning, they went home and they were just frustrated, was the parent-teacher relationship and the home conditions of the children. Again, just not knowing, or perhaps knowing, where that child was going home to, and that it perhaps maybe wasn't even a supportive environment, a comfortable environment, a happy environment, depending on the parents or the guardians at home. And so again, leaving phone calls for parents, not having those being returned, or even a strained relationship with a parent where the parent is more supportive of the child than of you as the teacher, that was also something that really bothered teachers after hours when they left the school. One last finding: what problems are the main reasons why teachers leave the profession? The number one reason is the affiliation, the first category that we looked at earlier. Basically, how to work with other people and correlate relationships with these various people in the school environment. Again, you're not in an isolation where you're just with your students all day long. You have so many relationships and so many interactions throughout the school day with other adults that it's so imperative that you learn to work with others. So this leads us to our kind of final note, but the affiliation is a big part of this. So long-term job success, and this has been done on so many different levels, but long-term job success depends on people skills, not the technical skills. So even though we are teaching you how to teach in here in your program at the University of West Georgia, what we aren't teaching you or should be teaching you is those people skills as well. That's what's going to sustain you in the teaching career beyond that, more than knowing dates and facts and formulas in math, is the people skills, how to get along with others. They're also known as what's called soft skills. And earlier they were implied soft skills for females that weren't the hard labor skills that males did way back in the day. But now we know that these soft skills are as important and more important than really what you know or how you know it. So positive interactions with coworkers, proper dress, looking professional, selling the part, communicating, listening before you speak, and thinking before you say something, or how you can word something differently to, say it better, say it with more compassion and less harshness in your voice. Willing to learn and take on new responsibilities in your day-to-day, serving as a team player and not just as an individual in every work environment or situation, showing up on time to work, so imperative, and of course having professional attitude and professional attire, and basically looking at the school as a holistic place to help students grow, and that it's not just about you and what you're teaching, but how you relate to others and how they're teaching the children as well. So how can you build on soft skills in this class? Well, we're actually going to work through some things throughout this semester of some of these areas that perhaps can help you with these soft skills, because again, 75% is those people skills, 25% is what you know.